Well, hi, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you for joining. We have a wonderful group of speakers today, a wonderful group of attendees. I'm Candace Eriks, Chair of Broward Days. Very exciting to be here with you guys today, even though we're virtual. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody participating, supporting Broward Days. Broward Forward is something that we have started, Broward Days and the Chamber together. I don't think Dan's going to be able to join us today. He has some connection problems. He's having some issues with the storm and traveling, so we'll pray for his safety, but hopefully he can join. So I just wanted to say, you know, he's been fantastic. So Broward Forward is something that Broward Days in the Chamber, we've joined forces to kind of do probably 2 or 3 events during the year, whether they're in-person receptions. We're probably going to do some virtual events. So just wanted to thank the Chamber for their support. So we're really excited. The elected officials that are joining us today, we truly have an amazing group. We have all leaders throughout the county. We have got our delegation leadership, our vice chair and chair. We have got our income minority leadership, both in the House and the Senate, our Broward County mayor, the president of the League of Cities, our school board chair, and all of our constitutional officers joining us today. That is an amazing lineup. Unfortunately, Mike Satz couldn't make it, but Monica Hofheinz, who has been a wonderful supporter throughout the community, will be joining in his place. So mainly what the leaders are going to be talking about is pretty much a snapshot on Broward, what to expect, what they're working on, and looking forward into legislative session, because even though we are in this pandemic and we are dealing with this, legislative session is going to happen. And so please, everybody, mark your calendars for March 16th and 17th. It is the second week of legislative session. We are still planning on doing an in-person Broward Days, and so, but we'll keep you up to date on that. We'll have more information. Broward Forward is going to do another event right after the elections, so probably end of November, to give you a little bit more insight on what session is going to look like, and you know how we're going to proceed forward into the Broward Days arena for whether we're going to anticipate virtual or not. And so I just really wanted to thank my board. They're an amazing group of individuals. I need to thank my executive director, who I could not do any of this without. So Andrea Knowles, you are a rock star. She is the Broward Delegation Executive Director, but she volunteers her time. So thank you to the delegation, thank you to the county. Thank you for all of our participating participants today, but mainly we couldn't do any of this without our sponsor. And so Juliet Rollhock from FPL has continuously not only supported this county, but they have supported Broward Days and supported the Chamber and many other organizations. So with that, I just say thank you for participating. We're looking forward to hearing from everybody. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Juliet.
Thank you, Candace. You know, good afternoon, everyone. I am a proud past chair of this chamber and the regional director of external affairs for FPL. So although this is FPL's first year as the presenting sponsor, it is certainly, we have supported this since its inception, in fact, which was during my term as chair. It's a program that I am particularly fond of and passionate about. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's participating in today's Broward Forward program. I must first begin by thanking and recognizing all of our guest speakers, Broward's elected officials, for their exemplary leadership, especially over the last 6 months when we have been so challenged. They've had to protect our physical and financial health, being, and safety. These challenges have been extraordinary, and the response has matched the need. From our local and elected state officials to our constitutional officers and school board electeds, you've all done a yeoman's job in responding to the recent crises faced by our community. So thank you. And of course, thank you to the staff of the Chamber and Broward Days for their tireless efforts in pulling this event together. Thanks to you, we've convened 14 officials who will provide informational updates and several business, civic, and community leaders who are interested in what they have to say. Most of you have come to recognize FPL as an energy company and a technology company. Certainly that's our primary role as an electric utility. But I like to say that we are more of an enabler. We enable you to work, live comfortably, and more importantly, Zoom. So that's really become important. We're really proud to serve all of you as our customers. But now, turning to the reason that you're all joined this meeting, our illustrious and very special guest speakers. Our first speaker is State Representative Shevrin Jones. He has represented the 101st District at Southeast Broward for over 8 years. Representative Jones is our voice and our advocate. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you so much, Juliet, and thank you for your leadership that you have done with this amazing organization, and I really appreciate that. And to Candace, for your leadership that you lead in Tallahassee, we're very appreciative for you, and to Andrea, who is a tireless leader who leads this delegation, which is such a grace. So thank all of you so much. And to all of you who are on here today, from our sheriff all the way to our legislative delegation, to our property appraiser, to our clerk of courts, to all of you, thank you all for being on here today. I'll start off by saying that it has truly been an amazing honor to serve each of you in the capacity as the delegation chair. The bills that we filed last year, the bills that we will file this year, I know for a fact will continue to create progress and opportunities for the residents here of our county. And despite the challenges created by COVID-19, in our legislative delegation, we rose to the challenge, helping constituents with unemployment claims, all the way to ensuring families have food on their tables through weekly food drives with Feed in South Florida. That's what your Broward delegation has been, and that's who your Broward leaders have been. I know that our delegation will certainly pass more important legislation this session and in the future. And I think as we move forward, I think it's important to say that, to note that we have a large task ahead of us. We need to invest in the Sadowski Fund for affordable housing. We're going to have to work to ensure that our children are not losing any learning gains during this time. We must engage with Secretary Eagle and help solve DEO's issues so that people can get their unemployment benefit in days, not months. We need to help the owners of small businesses that have died by the thousands, who will never come back again. We're going to have to help them this legislative session to figure out what is the best way for us to move forward together to make this happen. We're vulnerable, we all are, but that means that this is a time for leadership, and we need to be brutally honest about our shortcomings and step up to help the people who need us most. And I believe that that's what we've been doing, and that's what we will continue to do as a delegation. And I know that we will continue collaborating together to improve our county and the great state of Florida, unifying to do what is right for Broward. Which I tell you this, unifying is not a Democrat-Republican issue. This is the one thing that I'm sure that we all can agree on, that we will always have our fights, but the fight that we need to be fighting right now is fighting for the people within our district, within our county, and within the state to ensure that we can get people back on their feet. And so once again, I thank each and every last one of you. I know we joked before we actually went live, but I really enjoy the friendships that all of us have. That makes this job very easy. Again, it's been a pleasure being your delegation chair. And now I'm going to, I think I'm turning it over to the incoming vice chair, Senator Perry Thurston, who is my aggravation on a daily basis.
I want to thank Shevrin. I want to thank Shevrin for that wonderful, my chairman, for that wonderful introduction. It has truly been a pleasure serving under Shev's leadership as the chairman of our delegation. He's done a wonderful job in leading us and putting us at the forefront of the issues in our community, especially during these trying times. And so I want to thank you, Shev, for all that you've done in your leadership. I too want to thank Andrea Knowles for all that she does, and Candace, and you, Ms. Rolite, for your leadership over at FPL. And thank you for sponsoring us here today. You know, it's so interesting. Chairman Jones talked about the fact that we joked, and as I look at this panel, I'm just pleased to be on the panel with so many dynamic leaders here in Broward County. We know that Broward is in great hands when I look across the screen and see all of our constitutional officers and all of the leaders that are here in Broward County. So we do look forward. There are going to be challenges. but those challenges are going to present opportunities. And I think the type of leadership that we have here will help us to meet those challenges with some great opportunities. As you all know, we just had a long-range forecast up in Tallahassee, and along with the issues that the chairman talked about that we have to address, we also have to address this deficit of about $5.4 billion, a shortfall. Well, we also have the issue with some CARES money, Federal CARES Act money, about 5.8 million. But there are a number of things that are happening through our leadership in the Senate and the House, and you're going to hear from those leaders. We plan to make sure that we're on the forefront of making sure that the residents and the business community, especially the business community, are taken care of. You know, it's the small businesses and the regional businesses who provide the jobs, and we need to be there to make sure that our business community get the resources that should be flowing down from the federal government, as well as what we should be doing at the DEO and other agencies to make sure we look out for them. I as much as I'm grateful for knowing all of the members on this, the politicians, the leaders, I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to have more events like this with the chamber, to get to know, to have that same cordial relationship that we have as elected officials with our business community. Lots of members of the chamber we do know. Those that we don't know, as I'm coming in as the leader of the delegation, I want to make sure we have more opportunities to get to know, to work with them. We work with FPL and others all the time, but we want to work with all of the members of the chamber and our business community, so you know that we're there for you. So with that, I'm going to pass it on. And when I say pass it on, I think that sometimes we forget that in Tallahassee, there are 40 senators, 120 House members, but I think you're going to see from the rest of these conversations, we've got the brain trust of Tallahassee right here in our community, the leaders who are set to lead in the House and the Senate. And the next gentleman that I'm going to pass this over to is our incoming Senate Democratic leader, who is helped positioning us to do great things in Tallahassee. He's my good friend, but he is my leader in the Senate, and I'm looking forward to serving under his leadership. He's hit the ground running when he came into the Senate, and I'm going to turn this over to none other than our next Senate Democratic leader, Senator Gary Farmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Perry. Really appreciate that. I am blessed to have so many good friends and colleagues in the legislature and in the Florida Senate. And Senator Perry Thurston is probably my closest friend. It's a pleasure and honor to serve with him every day. And I'm sure looking forward to Representative Jones becoming Senator Jones and joining up there as well. So I want to start by echoing the comments by both of my good friends. Julie, you and FPL, your sponsorship, Candace, you and Andrea Dunn. Listen, it's no secret that, you know, several years ago, with Broward Days, it kind of suffered a little bit. And through the hard work of you all, you've really done a great job in sort of reigniting the awareness of the importance of Broward Days and the importance of Broward County getting up to Tallahassee and talking to legislators and making sure that we're getting our fair pie. You know, we've heard it said many times that Broward is a donor county in many ways, and that we give so much revenue to the state, and we give much less in proportion. So the efforts by you all to reignite Broward Days and our delegation and getting businesses up into Tallahassee, advocating for the things that they find important. It's so meaningful and so important because, you know, what's the old saying, you know, in Tallahassee, if you're not at the table, you're beyond the table. So we really appreciate all the people who come up to Tallahassee and keep us informed about what's important in the community so that we can fight. Because at the end of the day, we are public servants. We serve people of Broward County. And we love doing that, and we really appreciate the support you give. Speaking of Tallahassee, we are about to embark on a legislative session after these elections are over. That's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. I just wanted to give people updates, at least as to what we know right now, and there's still a lot to be determined. Of course, we've got our elections November 3rd. It has not been officially noticed, but historically and typically in the week or two following the elections, we have our organization session. That is when that will be set by the Senate President, most likely be Wilton Simpson, but you never know, it could be me. But once that is set, we will have our organization session in November, and then we will have some committee weeks that will occur in December and January. Our official start to session is April 2nd, and we end April 30th, so that's a little bit different. We usually end in the beginning of May. And right now, you know, there's still a lot being discussed and determined. I've been in communication with President-designate Wilton Simpson and his staff. They are doing a massive assessment, really. I mean, we are really trying to the logistics of how we're going to do the session. Obviously, COVID, social distancing, and safe practices impact things. But we also want to make sure that people have access to the legislature. We are a people's legislature, and interest groups and individuals who care about issues need to be able to talk to their elected officials as bills are moving. And so right now, we are doing assessments where we are figuring out things like maximum capacity of committee room, just getting a sense of what is the logistical situation, access to offices, how we're going to determine that. Senator Simpson and I will be meeting in the coming weeks to try to set up some rules. I was very pleased. He did advise me last week that we will have a mandatory mask policy in the Florida legislature, in the Florida Senate, and that will be something that, you know, that and distancing are the things we're trying to figure out to deal with things like capacity in a committee room, how we're going to set up meetings in our offices, how we're going to have access to the Capitol. Again, we've got to ensure access for people, but we've got to be safe in doing that. And so that is something that is still in progress, and we hope to have some announcements here in the coming weeks. My good friend Senator Thurston touched on just a few of the issues that we're going to have to be dealing with here. First and foremost is going to be this budget. We are anxious to get back as legislators and deal with the budget. So far, expenditures and cuts have been dealt with via the executive branch. We would like to have a say in how this thing is going to go forward. Right now, for example, state agencies have been told to cut percentages of their budgets for this year. And we understand the need for cost saving, but just by way of example, you know, I'm a member of the Broward Behavioral Health Coalition, and mental health and behavioral health funding is to be cut 6% on the year at a time where we're seeing an increased need for some of those services. So that's just one example of some of the things that we're going to have to deal with. Certainly things like the unemployment situation, getting a functional unemployment system. We hope to maybe buttress and increase some of the benefits. We're one of the lowest in the country as far as weekly benefit and duration of that benefit, maximum duration of that benefit. That's something that's going to have to be addressed. Many of us believe that education needs to be addressed on a more statewide basis. Ensure that we have viable virtual options if we need to implement those on a widespread basis. That's certainly one of the toughest decisions families are having to make right now as kids going back to school and how that's going to look. So myriad of challenges face us, but as Senator Thurston said, we are really, I'm very proud that not only am I the incoming leader of our Senate Democratic Caucus, and Senator Thurston is likely to be the leader following me for our Senate Democratic Caucus. My good friends and Broward colleagues, Representative Bobby Dubose, Representative Evan Jenne, as the leaders in the House. Broward is certainly represented in a very strong and meaningful way. We all work together very well, and we look forward to advocating for the things that help Broward County and make Broward County the special place it is. And we couldn't do it without the support and guidance and information from so many of the members and people who are on this call and who are part of the Broward Days movement. So we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for your support. We encourage you to continue to be involved, recruit more businesses, friends, keep us informed, let us know how we can help Broward County get even better than it is right now. So with that, I would like to introduce my good friend and the incoming co-democratic leader of the Florida House of Representatives, Representative Bobby Dubose.
Thank you, Gary. And I first, too, want to start out by thanking Juliet and the Fort Lauderdale Chamber for hosting and bringing us on. I did see her. I hope she's still on. I know she was frozen. But if not, I'll go ahead and just say it since we start off with my good friend Marty Kiar and all that UM stuff. I just got to start off by saying go Gators. As I listened and I heard my colleagues speak, and so I thought about crafting my comments a little differently here because Representative, and he's still ours, Gary and Perry, until he's sworn in. Representative Shevrin Jones, my good friend, talked about policy and delegation and how that ties in. And then my Senator Thurston talked about the budget shortfall, and Senator and leader over in the Senate, good friend Gary Farmer, talked about procedurally what to expect when coming to Tallahassee. What I really want to focus in on is really what we have here. We have this one united voice, which is really important going to Tallahassee. And as I sat here and I listened and I thought about the leadership that we have coming out of Broward, it just kind of made me reflect on how we got here. And Candace can really speak to this, and Andrea. But I remember I was delegation chair, and I think Gary kind of touched on it, the challenges that Broward Days had, and we just were kind of lukewarm. We really didn't have a physical presence in Tallahassee anymore. And so this idea was brought to us, and it's actually by Kelly Skidmore, who's now coming to the House. So, as this whole thing kind of comes full circle, I think it's really important because it'll highlight how when we come together as one voice, we could be very strong. But the notion was that, hey, let's bring Broward Days under the delegation. And I was like, Andrea, because I know Andrea has a lot to do, and I had a conversation, and she said absolutely, and she's just been magical with helping us get to this point. And so I remember we had our chair of fact, it was Nikki Freed, who's now Ag Commissioner. So I'm just kind of giving you a little history of how this has grown and how powerful Broward is when our brain trust and our leadership and our electeds, as well as our business community, come together, and how impactful it is and how important it is for us to continue to operate in a space and have these conversations. And so we go to Tallahassee, and the first Broward Days reception was actually in my suite. And Candace, I know you and Andrea remember that. And my suite was kind of cut out, and part of it was Andrea's office. So we kind of had this makeshift reception thing going on. But, now to see where we've come and how united we are, and that presence is really needed. And the timing is now. I know it's challenging times, but as pointed out, Nikki Freed's the ag commissioner, but she's from Broward. She's ours. I used to be her representative. So, and she was there when we kind of jump started this thing. And so that's really important for Broward and for all of you to know that. And then we have, on the Senate side, we have our leader and leader designate in Senator Farmer and Thurston, who will be leading the charge over in the Senate. And then on this side, myself and co-leader Jennings. So Broward is on fire, and that's very important because in Tallahassee, we got to fight. It was pointed out that we don't get our fair share, and we have come together on certain issues like beach renourishment and so forth, and we've led a good fight on education. But as we move forward in this new normal, as some would say, in the pandemic, what we have now is so important, and I just can't emphasize that enough. Knowing that being in this capacity strengthens us, and as much as many of us have risen in leadership, there's a lot more within Broward. So again, Candace, Andrea, Juliet. Thank you all, because we couldn't have gotten to this point without you guys. And I really look forward for us to marching on Tallahassee and taking what's rightfully ours, not only in dollars and appropriations, but also in policy that affects Broward, so that we will stop being a donor county. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bob.
I'm sorry. My part, I forgot to introduce I was told to pass the baton, and it does give me a pleasure. And not only is he my co-leader, Evan is a really good friend of mine. We go way back. We started this journey in Broward, and it's definitely been a pleasure for us. And hey, Gary and Perry, man, it's a hard task when you have to manage this thing in a singular fashion. You guys got 40, we got 120. I got to tell you, it is definitely a blessing to have Evan Jennings as my co-leader. And with that, I'll pass the baton on to Evan.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that greatly. First of all, thank you to Candace. Thank you to everybody, Juliet, Andrea, everybody that put this together. It's great, and I think you can see that just by looking down at the bottom of your Zoom page. 192 participants right now. That's great, and especially in the middle of the day. Look, every single session that I've been to, and I'm heading into, this will be my 13th session out of the last 15 years representing Broward County. Every single session is tinted by some event or some outside influence coming around. A couple of years ago, it was hurricanes. 2 years ago, it was the tragedy at Stoneman Douglas. And obviously, all of those had deep, deep impacts on what we did in Tallahassee and throughout the state. This particular year, it has to be COVID. Leader Farmer spoke directly about the conversations going on with the Senate President and how we will get ready, because it is going to have an impact not just on the policies that come through, but it's going to have a huge impact on how we actually do work. Who's going to be in the building, who's going to be working, who's not, and how our citizens reach out to us in those committee meetings. It's going to be a major, major undertaking that cannot be overlooked. There's some other things that I think have the potential to be overlooked, but in no way, shape, or form should they be. I know right now, I think it was Steve, I saw a comment earlier in the chat box, but we have the census coming up right now. That is going to have a direct impact on what Broward County looks like, the funding we receive, both at the federal and the state level. So just as a little bit of a PSA, please, if you haven't done so, please fill out your census and encourage everyone around you to do the same. Now that'll lead me into something, what I was referring to earlier, that I don't think has gotten enough attention, and it needs to moving into this session. We have something that's going to be lurking in the background, and it will be front and center eventually, but it will impact the very foundation of what Florida's democracy looks like for the next decade. We are heading into a redistricting session. Redistricting will be impacted by COVID. Typically, we do a road show and travel throughout the state. Is that even going to be possible at this point in time? It has to be paid attention to. I would encourage everyone on this call to pay attention whenever you see anything dealing with redistricting, because it will impact not just our democracy, but who represents you in Tallahassee as a state representative, as a state senator, and also your Congress people. That is going to have the deepest of impacts. It will determine what district you live in. So at the end of the day, who will represent you? Those questions in some part will be answered by how this session goes and what redistricting looks like. I know that my colleagues in the Senate and that are here on this call are getting ready for it. I know that we are paying very special attention to it. And without rehashing everything that we talked about with COVID, that is one thing I'd like to put on absolutely everyone's radar because it will impact your day-to-day life. There is no way around that. That is an absolute fact. So with that, I know we have a lot of speakers and I certainly don't want to take up any more time than is necessary, but I do want to put that on everyone's radar. Fill out that census and make sure that you do so and that you're paying attention to redistricting and what's going on because it will have a definable impact on everyone's life that's right now listening to us. With that, it's been a pleasure to be here. I appreciate being given the time to talk to you about this very important subject, but it's also a pleasure to introduce the next speaker that we're going to hear from. He's an individual that I've had the honor to know for, I believe, over a decade at this point, and not just him, but members of his immediate and extended family, whether it's his brother over at the sheriff's office, or whether it be this gentleman when he was a city commissioner and now as the mayor of the great county of Broward. I have found if your last name is Holness, you are talking about one of the most driven, hardworking individuals that I've had the pleasure of meeting within this process. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere honor and pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the great mayor of the great county of Broward, Dale Holness. Dale, all yours.
Thank you so very much, Evan. And would you say hello to your dad for me, someone I've known for a long time?
My pleasure, sir.
Again, thanks for the great introduction. So I was on another call and still on there for a community event dealing with some issues in the unincorporated area. I have most of it in Broward County. But again, thanks for having me on. We are facing, of course, the pandemic that we have worked so closely together with so many entities to the point that we are now seeing a low positivity rate in the number of people who are testing positive for the COVID-19 virus. The mayors of Broward County have had conversation on a regular basis with input. I'm grateful that we are listening to them and participating the best we can with them because we're all in this together. Broward County is our home. It is a place that we all are interested in making better for everyone. So as you know, the pandemic has severely hampered our economic growth. We were at less than 3% unemployment rate prior to the pandemic. Now we're up in the low teens, 11 to 14%. We will get through this. We must, and together we will. Make it better. We have a lot of projects that we're working on in Broward County, and one I'm going to touch on is the penny tax, which is a godsend for us, I believe, in terms of how we can utilize those funds to create economic development opportunity and grow our economy, put our people back to work. We voted a couple of months ago $150 million to get our cities doing the things that they want to do. In the community, repaving streets, doing sidewalks, and putting transportation infrastructure in place. That will create 1,488 direct jobs and another 391 indirect jobs, and create 174 million direct economic impact with another 61 million indirect economic impact. So we're doing what we need to do the best we can here at Broward County to keep the economy growing. It is essential that we do everything we can to keep our people at work. Our airport was the fastest growing international, fastest growing large size airport in the country. Prior to the pandemic, we've seen tremendous loss of revenue there. We were considered a low cost airport where we had each enplanement in the previous year at $12 compared to Miami at about $26 per ticket that you purchase. We've now in our new budget year coming up, our $7.4 billion budget, we're looking at now increasing that to $17+ for each ticket. So there's a substantial increase there that we're seeing. We'll continue to do working on the expansion of the airport because I believe and we believe that we'll get through this and we'll return to where we'll see economic growth again and the strong utilization of our airport because we're so centrally located and we run that facility efficiently with great customer satisfaction as we go forward. We will work and continue to do that. Our port, thanks to our federal government, we were able to get some funds to continue our projects there where we're deepening to 52 feet, the depth, expanding to put more berths in, widening the port. That's about $2.3 billion that we're looking at investing there. That will continue and is continuing. We have some what's called gantry cranes that will be delivered before the end of the year, we hope, where we will be able to handle what's called the post-Panamax vessels, the larger vessels that need displacement of more than 48 feet in order to come into port. Those gantry cranes are low profiles, which will allow us to not interfere with the airport operation. If we were to use the regular cranes, it would cause the planes to either take off at a higher altitude or sharper increase in altitude or not be able to do so at all. So we're working on that. Those cranes again will be delivered later this year. Our convention center expansion and hotel. The convention center expansion to 1,200,000 square feet of space is on the way. We'll continue that. The hotel expansion, the hotel building of the hotel, 800 rooms, 4-star, will be delayed a little bit. We won't be moving as fast because of the fact that we've seen this economic downturn that has taken away from the bed tax that we would normally use to fund such a project. But we'll continue to plan and develop that. We're also looking to work with the city of Fort Lauderdale to build a joint municipal complex downtown. We'll have another meeting shortly to further discuss where we go with that project. So there's a lot of things that we're doing here in Broward County. We're not waiting to get over the pandemic to plan for the future and to build for the future. We will pass a budget at our next meeting, which we're looking at basically not hiring new staff unless there's really a dire need for that, because we must prepare for possibly downturn in the coming year in property taxes. That's not certain, but what we're certain of is sales tax is down. So the revenues we get from that is decreased. The revenues from gas tax is decreased. We anticipate that residential properties may stay a level at least, but for commercial, retail, and industrial properties, because of the new norm, where people are now working from home and shopping online, we anticipate that those revenues from property taxes from those entities will probably decline, and we must prepare now in advance to deal with those issues should they arise. And Bertha is being a great fiscal person in terms of managing that. And my staff is signaling me that I need to introduce Miss Traci Callari, a very fine lady, commissioner in Hollywood. She's a nurse and is being a nurse for 18 years at Memorial. She's one of those folks who've been on the front line taking care of our COVID-19 patients and have worked tirelessly there. She is married to James Callari, 25-year veteran of the Hollywood Police Department. She has 3 wonderful children. She's a proven, proactive and true voice for the community that she serves. Service and ability to motivate and mobilize people is her passion. She's very passionate about that. And I find Traci to be a very calm, collective person who really is honest and open and collaborative in her efforts to help us build a Broward County that is as inclusive as possible. One Broward moving forward together is my mantra, and she shares that tremendously, where we create prosperity for all our people. She's been on the City Commission in Hollywood since November 6, 2012, and will continue to work to build a better Broward for all of us. Traci Callari, now president of the Broward League of Cities. Ms. Callari.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Holness, and it's a pleasure working with you, and it's great to see everybody on this call. Thank you so much for the invite. As you all know, I am the president of the Broward League of Cities, honored to represent the 31 cities as well as the unincorporated areas throughout Broward County. I am a municipal elected official, and we all here in Broward County have our boots in the ground, and we are representing 1.9 million residents of the county, and we are proud to serve. It's great, again, to see everyone in such familiar faces and to hear everyone's voice. We miss this during these times. Like everyone on today's panel, our cities are dealing with the challenges of COVID-19. As mentioned by Mayor Holness, I am definitely in the thick of it, as we would say, but we have to put on our elected officials hats, and I'm grateful to be here to be able to branch out that arm and work for not only the city of Hollywood, but for Broward County. We worked really hard as a partnership with the county, and I am very pleased to say that the CARES Act funding for our cities and our residents is in the works. This was a complete partnership, and I'm honored to say that we were able to work collaboratively with the county to provide $102 million that will be distributed throughout Broward County for the people and for those in need of challenges with COVID. So this is really a great thing. It's a stepping stone for the elected officials to work with the county in such a great way. 2 key areas that I would like to mention as we prepare for the 2021 legislative session. The first that I will be back up working again strong and hard with is the school resource officers funding. I know with Sheriff Tony, who's also I see is here, and collaboratively with the Broward League of Cities this year, it will allow us the opportunity to try to levy up to an additional 0.5 mils for the purpose of providing the dedicated funding sources for our school resource officers. We made great progress last year with the help of our Broward delegation, especially Rep. Jones and Rep. Lamarca. They were instrumental by getting that the meeting set up, and I look forward to continuing working with them on this matter. Another issue that is in the conceptual stages, and again, forming a partnership with the county is the Broward deal with the solid waste and recycling. The league has been working in this area for several years, and there are several options on the table that include legislative action. So we will keep you all posted and keep you up to date on the discussions moving forward. I think that we can all agree, especially over the last several months, that working together, we are Broward, is taking care of each other, and communication and listening and creating that opportunity to reach the hand across the table and make things work is really going to pay off. And I'm honored to be leading that and working with all of you, especially the electeds from Broward County. And it's great to see so many faces that have moved up the chain and that are up there. I can't say I'll be there one day, but I guess you just never know. But thank you for all your hard work, your dedication, and We are great. Broward County is. And thank you all for moving Broward's issues forward, and we'll be in touch and speaking with one another. And with that, I would like to first, which I forgot to do in the beginning, is thank Andrea, thank Juliet and Candace for reaching out to me and allowing me this opportunity to speak and represent Broward County. And also now with that, I would like to introduce the countywide large seat, C8 countywide Broward County School Board, Donna Korn. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Traci Callari. I greatly appreciate this opportunity, especially with the esteemed colleagues that I have as elected officials of Broward County. So I am Donna Korn. I am the chair of the Broward County School Board, as well as a businesswoman in the community and the mother of 2 of our students in Broward County Public Schools. So I bring greetings not only from myself, but also from my 8 colleagues on the board and the superintendent. Before I begin my comments, I do want to just take a quick moment and thank all of you. We know that it takes cooperation for all of us to successfully reopen our schools. Clearly that is our focus at this point. Face-to-face learning is our ultimate goal. So the partnership and cooperation of our Broward County government, municipalities, state delegation members, and the business community has been pivotal in our affording Broward County Public Schools the opportunity to reopen. So I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for continued support in allowing us to do so. As you might have heard, Superintendent Runcie has asked the school board to consider reopening schools for face-to-face learning as early as Monday, October 5th. Currently, all of our students, including my own children, my nieces, nephews across this county, are successfully learning virtually thanks to our amazing and dedicated teachers, administrators, and staff. However, we know e-learning is not a substitution for face-to-face learning. We are all anxious to get our schools reopened, and we know the importance of our district play in our community and meeting the critical needs of our students, families, and our community. That is why it is imperative we reopen in a way that is safe and smart. So as we decided how are we going to reopen our campuses to our students, we're going to be guided by the advice of our local public health officials and our medical experts, as we have throughout this entire decision-making process. We are not going to compromise the health and safety of our students, teachers, and staff. It continues to be and has this entire time frame been our priority. The district has ordered signage, plexiglass, personal protective equipment, cleaning and sanitation equipment, preparing for the reopening of our face-to-face learning. The cost of these purchases, as you know, across the state in all of your own areas has been high. The financial impact on our district to provide the proper PPE has been and will continue to be significant, and a significant impact to our overall budget. We will be continuing to advocate with your assistance for federal and state funding, as well as support from our local community to assist in these efforts. We know this is going to be a tough budget year in Tallahassee, but the core of this has to be protecting our classrooms from any negative financial impact. As you probably heard through your own constituents, there are a wide variety of different views about how and when we should be reopening, and when we can. And as we are doing this, we are continuing to listen to the community as we have through this process, and continue to look forward to taking our next actions. We are encouraging our families, staff, community members, including our local businesses and our fellow elected officials, to reach out to us as board members, as well as through our Broward County Public Schools website portal. The district is thankful to the amazing delegation that continues to advocate for our students and teachers. I'd like to close by also recognizing Juliet and FPL, as well as Candace Eriks, for all of your leadership and support for this important conversation. I do invite you all to watch the school board workshop, which is scheduled for this coming Tuesday, September 22nd, where the decision on when and how to reopen schools is going to be discussed. Our meeting starts at 10 a.m. Again, I do want to thank you all for your continued support. Broward County Public Schools is excited to assist in this moving Broward forward effort. And with that said, I would like to turn this over to our Sheriff, Gregory Tony, and thank him and all of our law enforcement for keeping us safe during this time.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, Donna, for the very wonderful introduction. Of course, I'd like to thank Candace and her entire team for organizing and setting this up. The virtual world is now our new world. Also, to all our different distinguished panelists, thank you for all the support over the last 20+ months. I continue to look forward to working with you all to do what's best for Broward County. With that, starting with the things and concerns that I kind of just want to bring the community up to speed on in terms of what we've been dealing with from the Sheriff's Office standpoint. This has been a very challenging year in the sense that we had to take on a multitude of different challenges from the very onset of me stepping in as the new sheriff during a time of much controversy and confusion and having to mitigate things related to school safety and security. And the organization had, risen to the occasion. And I have to thank my command staff for the success that we have. We have roughly 500 years of institutional knowledge and experience now helping lead up this organization. And I have to say thank you to them, because where we are now wouldn't be possible without their success and their commitment to this community and ensuring that their sheriff had the tools and the things essential to be successful. To begin with, we've invested millions, up to $60+ million back into public safety this past year. The idea behind it was to advance our technology, advance the different safety protocols, and ensure that our schools are safe, our streets are safe, and we're continuing to build out different platforms to ensure that we're a leader in this entire state, not just here in the county. In addition, we took on two major pandemics, as I would call them both. Of course, COVID-19 has impacted this county like no other, but then we also had the issue of police reform, which arrived in the middle of this medical pandemic. In terms of COVID-19, unfortunately, our agency is not immune to this. I lost 5 employees this year. I hope that we can come to some balance there and not have to lose another employee to this virus. However, we also seen how it was impacting our community. Our community was being devastated due to the fact that so many people were losing jobs and being forced to make decisions as to whether or not they should pay for their utility bills or put food on the table. And what we did here was to look at how we can work from an organizational standpoint to reduce those burdens, and partnered up with Feeding South Florida, helped issue out hundreds and thousands of food items across this entire county. We reallocated monies from our law enforcement trust funds recently, about $100,000, to ensure we pay for another 750,000 meals for our residents. I think those are significant moves that we're going to continue to expand and probably invest more monies in because there's an association to crime patterns. That's a reality. Some of these pressures have put people in positions that were really not prevalent towards crime or criminal patterns or behaviors, but because they're making these very difficult decisions in terms of how do I feed my family, how do I pay the bills, we're seeing little spikes in crimes. In terms of the major spikes in crimes that we have dealt with, really associated with COVID-19, having partnered up with the mayor to look at what we can do, working with Bertha Henry as well, putting out different administrative orders that did twofold help reduce crime. These large party gatherings, we had to conduct operations across the entire county to help cut those numbers down because they were being associated to violent crimes. We had a couple of shootings. We've been effective to reduce those areas of crime patterns, but now we're going to start moving in to a national cry in terms of what's been going on across the country when we're talking about police reform. The brutal murders of multiple Black men and women across the country has electrified this entire planet. We've seen things take place in other parts of other countries that are really not associated to here in the United States, but the cry for justice echoed enough that they got involved. Some of the things we've done here, being at the forefront, we've introduced early warning systems, use of force review boards, partnered up with the FBI to submit our use of force, reestablish a professional standards committee, and today is the launch of our social justice task force. We've invited the community in, we've listened to their concerns. Civic groups such as Black Lives Matter are part of this organization, part of this social justice task force, and I think we're seeing the success in that. For every time that there is an incident across the country related to excessive force, our community, Broward County, responds very effectively in that we don't see large riots, we don't see burnings, and I think it's because from an organizational standpoint where we provide public safety for half the county, we are listening. We're not only listening, but we are acting upon the different requests that we can handle. We've partnered up with the Broward Chiefs of Police Association several months ago, and I was excited to see this happen. I know Shevrin Jones, Representative Jones, or Senator Jones is on the line today. And almost about 2 years ago, I believe it was, he introduced the bill related to racial equity and implicit bias training becoming more prevalent here in Broward County and across the state. And unfortunately, he didn't have the success there as it wasn't turned into legislation. But that was something that we could easily control when it comes to this agency in this county. And I was able to formulate a meeting with our Broward Chiefs of Police, got everyone to agree upon introducing that type of training here in Broward County. And we haven't seen that anywhere in the state of Florida. And so we're very progressive in what we're doing. We're aware of the community concerns, and we'll continue to move the agency forward. So I'll close with this. This is my second time participating in Broward Days. And the two-day event that's established gives us all an opportunity to kind of unify, crash ideas amongst each other, and push forward. But it should be a reminder that Broward Days is actually 365 days out of the year. And then it's important that all of us, regardless of what we represent, come together to do the things that are important for the community. And when you call, your sheriff will be here. I'll turn it over to a man who really doesn't need an introduction. Marty, our property appraiser, has an outstanding reputation in his community, has served for quite some time. And I call him the happiest man in Broward County because he never stops smiling. So I look forward to working with everyone. And Marty, it's all on you.
Thank you, Sheriff, for that great introduction. I really appreciate that. And thank you also for the excellent update you just gave. That was great. And so thank you for that. And also my happiness stems from the fact that I love Broward County. I love my wife. I love my kids. I have a lot of caffeine all day. So it's good stuff. But thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody on this call, every elected official. And I especially want to thank our legislative delegation because they really do a fabulous job advocating for Broward County and the state of Florida every single year. And I think that Juliet put #BrainTrust. They are the brain trust of the state of Florida. We are so blessed to have all of them. So thank you all very much for that. And I want to thank Candace, of course, and Juliet and Andrea. Andrea works so hard, by the way. I love Andrea. You know what? We have just an awesome team advocating for us all the time. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I thought I'd use my time just to let the folks on this Zoom meeting really know where property values are this year. And then the biggest question that I get from everybody, and rightfully so, is how does the effects of the COVID-19 terrible pandemic affect property values for this year and for next year for tax purposes? So let me go through those two things because I think those are really important. So the first thing I need to mention is January 1st is our date of assessment. So when you get your property tax bill this November, that's based on what was your property value on January 1st, 2020. We're prohibited by law from taking into consideration anything that happened after January 1st. For this tax year, we have to look at the year before. So the first answer is, unfortunately, there are so many people that are suffering or having a terrible time as a result of the effects of this pandemic, but we're actually prohibited by law from utilizing anything that occurred after January 1st for this year. That's why when you got your trim notice from us and when you saw you're going to get your tax bill, you'll probably see an increase in value because 2019 was very, very strong. And so let me talk about where values are for tax purposes this year when you pay your tax bill in November. And I want to compare it from last year. So in 2019, on January 1st, 2019, if you took all the commercial and residential property in Broward County and you sold it on the open market, you would have got right about $281 billion. That's a lot of money, but we're bigger than 13 states. That's a big thing. This year for 2020, because 2019 was so strong, there was a 4.46% increase in value to about $294 billion. The taxable value is actually the value that the county commission, our school board, and others are utilizing to determine the amount of money that they need. That in 2019 was $199 billion. For 2020, it's $211 billion. It's a 6% increase in value. And to give you an idea, the county commission is doing the fiscally responsible thing by keeping its millage rate the same. It's not increasing the tax rate on the people of Broward County. It's keeping it the same at 5.4878 from my understanding. And what that means basically is since there's been an increase in value, they'll receive this year right about another $65 to $70 million more this year than last year. But that's because 2019 was very strong at that time. The top cities that saw a value increase, Pembroke Park had a 10.5% increase, West Park had a 10.1% increase, and North Lauderdale had an 8.6% increase. And the reason those cities, I believe, had such a great increase, truthfully, is because they're great places to live. You have a lot of young families moving into those communities. You have a lot of teachers and young professionals. And also, I believe their city commissions and their local government officials really provide great services, making those wonderful areas for people to live. So that's why there, I think, is a lot of people moving in to those communities. You have 410,000 people who have homestead exemptions. You have 28,000 low-income seniors who have an additional exemption. You also have 2,650 totally and permanently disabled veterans who get a full exemption in Broward County. And you have 59 first responders who are totally and permanently disabled who have full exemptions as well. The two top sales of 2019 came from Fort Lauderdale. One was 1721 Southeast 17th Street. It was sold for $136 million. And then also you had Flagler Village Apartments, which sold for approximately $92 million. And then the top four new construction that we put on the tax roll that was on for this year all came from the city of Fort Lauderdale. They're massive multifamily projects, mostly downtown. The average single family home in Broward County is about $387,000. That's the market value. And the average taxable value is $237,000. And the average condominium value is about $184,000. And the average taxable value is $139,000. And again, all of those numbers, and especially the values that I stated, were based on January 1st, 2020, because we couldn't look past that. So let me give you a quick snapshot of where we are right now for 2021. On January 1st, 2021, we're going to look at all the data from 2020. And that's going to give us a value that we're going to give to the taxing authorities. They're going to set their millage rate on. That's going to determine the amount of money they're going to get when people pay their tax bills in November. And it's going to determine the amount of property taxes you pay. And unfortunately, as you know, 2020 has been very difficult. So many people are suffering. So many people are out of work. So many people are having a hard time. And there's a difference, though, between the residential market and the commercial market right now with regard to values. The residential market is actually very strong. Prior to the pandemic, we were averaging about 300 property transfers a day. During the heart of the pandemic, when people really started working from home, that went down to about 100 a day. But values stayed the same and kept on rising. Now we're basically back to 300 to 400 property transfers a day, and values are continuing to rise. So on the residential side, as Mayor Holness said just before, that you may not see much of a change there. But the commercial side, there's a good chance that those values could drop significantly. And the reason being is because when we value those properties, we do it based on comparable sales, but also income. Basically, every single year on January 1st, businesses come into our office and they provide us the income that they made from that year. They provide us their vacancy rates and things of that nature that helps determine the value. And although I can't say for certain, but I have a feeling that on January 1st, 2021, many businesses throughout Broward County that have really been suffering are going to bring their income in for this year. And it's going to show that the value of their properties for tax purposes have significantly dropped. And that's why I have to tell you, I was very thrilled to hear Commissioner Holness talk about what he and Ms. Henry and the county commission is doing by preparing potentially for that. And I'm also encouraged, I think all of our cities are and our school board are as well. With that said, I can go on and on forever. I just really appreciate you all allowing me to be here and to talk to you. I love Broward Days, and I feel so honored to be honestly on a Zoom meeting with all of these incredible public servants that work tirelessly every single day for the people of Broward County. With that said, I get to now introduce my friend, our very hardworking clerk of courts, Brenda Forman. Our office gets to work closely with her office. Truthfully, the clerk's office works with everybody, but we also get to work with them as well. And Brenda runs a very good ship. I think she does an excellent job. And I always get thrilled when I open my mailbox and I see her face on my jury duty card. But I just wanted to say, Brenda, it's always good to see you. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. Juliet and the Fort Lauderdale Chamber, thank you for hosting this. And as always, Andrea and Candace, you guys are the greatest. You keep me informed of things that I need to do. And sometimes, Andrea, things I don't need to do. But thank you, everyone. Just some update on the clerk's office, and I'm going to be coming after our representatives and our senators. Because of this COVID, we were closed like 2.5 months, maybe 2 months and 3 weeks or whatever the case may be, and it took down our revenue. The revenue went way down. And because of where we are right now, the clerk's office, we are 50% as far as my employees are concerned. We got 50% working and 50% that are not working. So we're trying to do everything that we need to do because the revenues is not coming in the way it's supposed to. We did open back up on June 3rd to the public, only to those who have business at the courthouse. If they do not have business at the courthouse, you will not be let in, because we're gonna ask, where are you going? Is it traffic and misdemeanor? Is it to pay a fine? Is it to pay a parking ticket? Is it to get your passport? Is it to get married? Is it to file to get a divorce? Anything that you have to do with the clerk's office, if you have the business, we'll let you in. If you don't, you're not gonna be able to come in. We don't have jurors that's coming in at the moment because there are no judges. So we're most likely, we're not gonna have jury duty or any jury trials until maybe after January, based upon what the chief judge is going to do. But we're doing everything possible to make sure that we stay in touch and in tune with the public to let them know that we are still here. You're able to come down and you're able to do business with the clerk's office. Domestic violence, if you still need to, file a restraining order, we're open for that. Like I said, passport, marriages, paying a traffic fine, paying a ticket. If you need probate, if you need anything that has to do with family, we are open just for that. Anything else, you have to find out from your notice, if you're getting a notice in the mail in reference to any type of hearings or first appearances or whatever, you will get notified from us in the mail, and it will have Zoom information on there for you. So we're just asking that everyone, just continue to be patient with us. Yes, my office is running as well as we can during this COVID. And I'm asking all of my senators and all of my representatives, please fight for us up there. We need funding, because if anything happens in January and we get another wave of the COVID, God help us, because I don't know where this clerk's office will be, because if we get shut down again, I don't know. But I truly, truly thank you for having me on, and it's going to be another great 4 years. This office has been running great under my reign, and I will continue to do what needs to be done for the public and for everyone that is involved when they need the clerk's office to be there for them. So once again, I don't have a lot to say at this time, but I do want to thank everyone for being on and for having me here. And thanks to you again, once again, Candace and Andrea. Truly, truly, truly appreciate you guys. And I'm going to pass the torch on to, if I pronounce your last name wrong, please do not hold it to my heart, Mr. Peter Antonacci.
Well done. Thank you, clerk. As good as anybody ever did. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all for setting this thing up, and very honored to present here. It's an even numbered year. It's a presidential year, and we're going to have a big election in a few weeks. We've had 2 big elections already this year, and I'm happy to report that they went off successfully by and large. There's always glitches in the system, and there's always improvements to be made, and we've set about to improve things for our voters. Like all of your offices, this operation has been profoundly affected by the virus. Typically, a Broward County general election would have about 30% of the votes would be by mail. But in August, 67% of the votes came in by mail. And I'm expecting about 900,000 voters will cast their ballots in November. So that means 600,000 vote by mail ballots, which far exceeds anything that we've experienced before. But I'm happy to report that we're prepared for it. With the generosity of our county commission, we've had the equipment that we need. So we've had plenty of capital available to get all of the things that help make that kind of job more rational. And we have enough temporary labor right now. I have about 200 people that are working temporary labor. And this does not count the 5,000 or so poll workers that we'll need for early voting and election day. I'm looking forward to a successful exercise here. There will be small things, I hope, that get our attention momentarily, but overall, I think that we're looking forward to a successful run. I know many of you whose name was on the ballot in August had a successful experience, and I hope that same thing happens for the remaining candidates on the ballot and the very important constitutional amendments and local questions. We also have about 25 municipalities that have elections, so we're hosting municipal elections as well, with as many as 17 local charter questions for one of our municipalities. So there's much work to be done, and after the election, much change will take place as our new officials take office and our constitutional amendments, et cetera, take effect. So, Madam Chair, I guess I'm supposed to hand it off to the next person, and I see the next person on the list is Monica Hofheinz. Monica and I have actually known each other for a long time. I don't know whether Monica still works for the state attorney, but I regarded her as the queen bean counter of all state attorneys' offices. She knew everything about money and was a great resource for me during my service with Attorney General Butterworth and Governor Scott. So Monica Hofheinz, whatever you're doing, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete. I'm still with Mike Satz, 36 years, so I'm still here. So thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. First, I do want to take the moment to congratulate the members of our legislative delegation, our mayor, our Broward County commissioners, our school board members, and the constitutional officers on their successful re-election campaigns. As you know, Mike Satz and I will be leaving shortly, and we will be welcoming a new administration. And we hope to work with them on a smooth transition. It's a big change for Broward County, and it's a big change for all of us. I especially need to work with whomever they choose to replace me, because I do think fiscal and budget matters are crucial to the operation of our offices. And I know we're in unprecedented times, but the court system is struggling to continue to respond to the pandemic. To update you, we are meeting with the chief judge monthly to decide whether or not the court system is ready to open more and more. Right now, all hearings, depositions, case investigations, preparations, and other matters are being done virtually. Very little face-to-face. We do have some face-to-face court hearings. The courthouse is closed to the public except for, as Madam Clerk talked to you about earlier, some operations of her office the public does come in and have access to. So, and I think that's important, but we have no idea when our building will be ready to welcome jurors. It's a little difficult putting 600 people in a room. You can't really do the spacing. Our elevators are not designed to accommodate small amount of people. So I'm not really sure, but we'll be meeting with the chief judge again at the end of this week to determine, because at some point we're going to need to be reopening, and we're going to need to staff the courtrooms, because the court dockets then are going to be very big, very busy. I don't know if Gordon is still with us, but his office is going to have as much difficulty as I getting everyone back in the courtrooms and getting the cases moving again. And it does bring up a very important fiscal issue. And, you know, I do watch the pennies and I worry about the budget, and we're going to need the support and the strength of our legislative delegation in Tallahassee, because we've already been cut. Our spending has been reduced by the governor's office. Even though the public defender and state attorney are under Article 5, our budgets fall under the executive branch. So when the governor issues a 6% release hold, it affects us too. But it's really not fair, because Department of Transportation can stop a road project. Department of Management Services can delay an improvement. But we can't. The state attorneys and public defenders are 96% people. Our state budgets are 96, maybe even more, just people. The county provides our housing, provides our phones, provides facilities, security, utilities. So we don't have anything else to cut when you cut a 6%, other than people. You can do layoffs, you can do freezes, you can do pay cuts, but it's going to be so difficult to welcome in a new administration and say, here is your problem. And, you know, I'm here to help you solve it. But, you know, there are so many bigger things that are going to be impacting us with this. So I am worried about properly staffing the courtrooms when we do reopen. So it's a big thing. And just so you know, 6% of spending cuts with our office is over $2 million. So that does have a major impact when we are just people. We recognize the economic impact. And several years ago, I think most of you will remember in 2007 when there was a big economic impact across the country, not just Florida. One of the things they did to public defenders and state attorneys was they said, well, look, we're cutting your general revenue budget. We're taking that away, but here's some new statutes. And we want you to go out and collect costs from sentenced defendants to operate your office. Go out and operate your office on the costs collected from sentenced defendants. We know that's not a reliable source. We know it's not an equitable or fair source. And of course, we've been shut down for what, 6 months. So there haven't been, as Clerk Forman said, there hasn't been collection of these costs, which your court system is dependent and operating on. So I am very worried about that state of the situation. As my final comments, I do want to thank, of course, Candace, who's been there for so many years for me as a good friend, and Andrea, that always invites me to attend and allows me to speak on behalf of Mike, and your devoted and hardworking staffs of all the legislative delegations that had to put up with seeing my face in Tallahassee constantly saying, we need this, we need that. And but I have enjoyed working on, you know, since I've been a prosecutor for the first part of my career in the courtrooms, and then this last part as an administrator. I have enjoyed working with you on legislative matters, even though we might have been working silently and behind the scenes. We were doing it to make Broward County a better community for all of us. And that really is going to be fondly in my memory. And so now I would like to introduce our new elected public defender. We look forward to a fresh start, even though I'll only get, you know, maybe moments with you, but we've sat on many meetings and groups together. And so I'd like to introduce Gordon Weeks, who is the new public defender for the 17th Judicial Circuit.
Thank you so kindly for that introduction. Thank you so kindly for the opportunity to have a conversation about the future, give you a little update and report on where we're at and some of the big picture items that I'm going to ask and enlist you for help in trying to move forward. Thank you, Juliet Rolak, for sponsoring and putting this all together. Candace for keeping me up to speed. I'm new to this, so thank you for giving me the updates. And Andrea Knowles, you have been fabulous. You know how to find me and make sure that I am there. It is a little new for me as the public defender-elect, but I have been doing this for quite some time. And I just want to tell you there are a number of challenges that face us in the criminal court system. COVID-19 has really been difficult. I can tell you that the wheels of justice never stop spinning, and due process is of paramount importance to make sure that folks have an equitable and appropriate opportunity to be heard in the court system. It is the most fundamental aspect of society, our criminal courts, because if folks feel that they're going to get a fair shot and a fair shake when they have to encounter the court systems, they will then give further trust into government and the things that we do. I try to emphasize that with you all to raise the level of importance of making sure that we're able to do our jobs at a very high level. And that turns us to funding. You know, COVID-19 has been very difficult. Cases are backing up. Supreme Court orders have put a lot of things, they've told a lot of issues, jury trials and things of that sort. But when this pandemic is behind us, we're going to have to spool up and get a lot of things done to catch up. You know, we've been in lockdown in Broward County for 6 months. It was March 18th, courthouse closed officially. And we have a lot of work to do, a lot of trials to push through. And I don't want to minimize the fact that we have consistently had court in the criminal court system every single day since this occurred, but for the first week, because we embraced technology. You should be proud to know that the court system shifted very quickly to embrace Zoom and continue to have hearings and address people's concerns. However, I want to stress and caution that although Zoom, we have all embraced it in our professional lives. We have all had Zoom hearings all day long. Yesterday I was on Zoom from 9 o'clock until 9 o'clock, and that seems to be my new life. That works for a lot of stuff, but you know, I caution you as you know the legislature meets and folks start making proposals that we recognize that due process is of paramount importance, and Zoom and court do not always mix very well, and we have to just have some safeguards that are in place to ensure that our court systems are operating appropriately and they are not turned into two-dimensional pictures where people are being processed without a real embrace of the facts, a review of the evidence, and having some real discernment of people. We don't want people to be reduced to two dimensions, whether victims or defendants or anyone that has to encounter the criminal justice system. You know, liberty is at stake, and it's the highest and the most important element. And I think it requires the highest level of consideration from a court. And although we've been able to do a lot through Zoom, through the pandemic, as we move forward, and I know folks are going to see cost savings, and they're going to say, hey, let's do this with Zoom. I ask you to be the firewall to not allow our court systems to become two-dimensional pictures on a screen, and that we go back to building a new system that is more patient, more compassionate, and is more considerate. So I'm asking you for that assistance. I'm asking you for that firewall. I'm sure you all can see the writing on the wall come next year when we are probably having a budget shortfall, and people are going to be looking for ways to save money. And one of those ways they're going to probably be saying, you know, let's move technology into the court systems to save money. Please be the firewall and don't allow that to happen. We need to be in court litigating those issues. Our clients need to be in court. Victims need to be in court. Witnesses need to be in court. And that is very important. I want to emphasize, I can't emphasize that any greater. But we also have to recognize mental illness has emerged in this community because of the pandemic. It is really impacting lives and families in unique ways. And we need to support programming through the pandemic and after the pandemic to deal with all of the depression and stressors that people have had to endure due to the pandemic. If that manifests in some criminality, we need to make sure that we are looking at it through the appropriate lens and not just looking at it as criminality off the stake. And I'm going to ask you to assist in that endeavor. I'm also going to bring to your attention that we've been having some conversations locally in this community for many years about reimagining our juvenile detention center that is dilapidated. It is outdated. It is not appropriate in its design, and I think is met or is exceeded as life expectancy. We're going to need your help in pushing that initiative forward so we can reimagine and create a world-class facility for the children that we have here in Broward County. Not a place that merely detains them, but a place that empowers them to give them tools to decrease their interactions with the criminal justice system. We've had those conversations locally, but it's going to require a commitment of resources. And I know it always comes back to resources, but it's going to require a commitment of resources and will to do this. For those of you that remember the history of juvenile justice in the United States, it was changed because of initiatives that started in Broward County. Many years ago, our detention center was sued because of the conditions of confinement. That lawsuit led to some very novel and outside of the box thinking, and they created a risk assessment instrument to evaluate the number or the type of children that were going to be placed in that system. Because of the efforts that started here in Broward County, the state of Florida adopted the risk assessment instrument, and the rest of the country adopted that approach to make sure that children were not just being placed in a detention center inappropriately. The reason why I tell that story is because we also have an opportunity here again to reimagine the way that juvenile justice is had, not only in Broward, but the entire nation. We've done it in the past, we can do it again, but we need your help. We need your commitment of will, and more importantly, some resources to assist us to get that done. I think there's a number of stakeholders locally that are supportive of that endeavor, but we also need all of the delegation to align when it comes to funding to get that done. And the last thing I want to emphasize is that we have a data-rich criminal justice system. And for many years, we have not really exploited that data appropriately. And one of the reasons why it is of great importance to do that now, with the backdrop of George Floyd's death and the Black Lives Matter movement, and folks starting to recognize that we need to embrace the issues that plague racism and institutional racism that exists within our criminal justice system. We have to really start looking at what criminal justice reform is going to look like. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is with the data. But we need some direction, not only on a local level, but on a statewide level, to properly capture that data, apportion that data, and then report that data in a transparent and usable format that stakeholders can make decisions about how the biases and the disparate impacts are impacting our criminal justice system. We can do it because the data exists, but we need the infrastructure through the data collection and the processing to make decisions. And that's where I'm going to ask you for assistance in imagining a system that we can make clear decisions on disparate impacts and start to really address a reform in our criminal justice system. That too can start here in Broward County. We have an opportunity that is unique to all other counties in the state of Florida. We have a whole new criminal justice leadership coming into place with a new state attorney, a new public defender, a new clerk, a new sheriff. We have an opportunity to do things different, but we need some assistance, some guidance on the legislative level to put the infrastructure in place so we can then make a proper decision. So thank you all for an opportunity for me to give you a report, but also to ask for some help for a vision moving forward for Broward County. On that note, I have no one else to introduce. I hope I haven't taken too much of your time, but thank you very kindly.
No, you did wonderful. And I just have to say thank you so much to everybody who, I know we went a little long, but this is so important. And we were so excited to be able to have so many wonderful leaders talk to us and take that time, that I'm so glad that everybody stayed on. I know we have a couple questions in the chat box. We are going to capture that. We're going to follow back up with the people who asked a couple of those questions. So those questions will be answered. But with that, I can't thank you enough for everybody's participation, for everybody's insight, for all the information. And with that, I'm gonna say good afternoon. Everybody stay safe, be well. Look forward to another Broward Forward event, probably, like I said, towards the end of November. But there'll be some updates from all of us. But just with that, we thank you. Juliet, is there anything that you want to say as we close out? You're muted.
Sorry, I just wanted to surpass expectations for me. I learned a lot. I really appreciate everyone participating. Thanks, Candace, for everything.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.